Hi everyone, this is Ms. Oka and welcome to our financial aid workshop presentation. So today we will have about an hour to review the financial aid application for FAFSA and the California DREAM Act by one of our UCSD financial aid officers. Just as a reminder that on Saturday, October 24th, we will actually be having a live Zoom from 11 a.m. until 2 p.m. to review and to finally submit those financial aid applications. You'll be able to ask more specific questions during that time. Before we get started today, I wanted to give you an opportunity to change your language settings if needed on YouTube. You can pause this at any time in order to change your closed captions. The first step would be to select the CC under the YouTube video. Then you are going to click on the small wheel for configuration. Once you select the configuration, you'll be able to select something that says Subtitles CC. Once you click that, you'll see Auto Translate. When you select Auto Translate, you will be able to see a list of a variety of different languages. I recommend selecting that and then beginning the next portion of our presentation. Thank you and enjoy.
So good evening, students and families. I am Ruthie Hernandez, school counselor at the Price School UCSD. And welcome to our financial aid workshop for 2020. We have Yvonne Borrego here with us from UCSD Financial Aid and Scholarships Office. She is the Senior Counselor Outreach Specialist, and we're happy to have her with us again this year. We also have Brittany Oka. She's one of our school counselors, and also Erin Patrick, our other school counselor. So thank you so much for being here, and we're going to transition over to Ms. Borrego so she can get started. Just make sure that you are writing down any questions you have so that you can come prepared on Saturday, the 24th, with any questions, and we'll be available there to answer any of your questions. So thank you, Yvonne.
Welcome on behalf of the Financial Aid and Scholarship Office at UC San Diego. I want to welcome you and thank you for giving up your evening. The information I'm going to share with you is extremely important, seniors, because this is it. This is when you're going to start applying, not into colleges, but also what's most important, and we realize that, is financial aid. So the information that I will be sharing with you today is you'll be able to take this to any college or university that you're planning to attend. Yes, I am from UC San Diego, and we certainly hope that many of you will be applying and get the opportunity to attend our wonderful institution. You know, you'll always be part of the UC family, so it will be like little like home away from home. But again, I realize that, you know, some of you will, there's other choices that you're going to be applying to different colleges. And so just to let you know the information I'm going to share with you today. So what is financial aid? It's access to funds for public college, university, community college, or private career college. Now, you know, some of you might decide to navigate that community college system, and just know that there is financial aid there. When we talk about private career college, or whenever you see, I should say, the word private career college, that's predominantly and that's primarily for those vocational schools or trade schools. Okay, so that's when you see that. And again, there is financial aid at those career colleges. However, just beware that most of that aid will be in the forms of loans. But what's extremely important, and what I say the most important part of financial aid, or part of that equation, is that it's going to give you, the student, you know, what is a choice for you, so that when you're applying into colleges, you don't limit yourself to applying to the least expensive schools. What is a good fit for you? What is a fits, you know, you academically, culturally, socially? What we don't want you to do is just to limit yourselves to, you know, applying to the least expensive schools because it's the least expensive. And I say that because I want you to keep in mind that the higher the cost of attendance, the higher the financial need, the higher the financial aid. So again, as you're searching and you're applying, don't just limit yourself to those least expensive schools. Now, when I say financial aid, I always like to say that begins with the cost of attendance. So every school has their own cost of attendance. Okay, that's the beginning of this formula, I say, to help you understand the financial aid now that you're actually going to be applying and awarding and receiving financial aid. So it all begins with the cost of attendance. Every college has their own cost of attendance. And what you want to do, and what I want you to do, is when you're researching that school, you want to focus on what would it cost just for me to attend classes there. Within that cost of attendance, look at what would it cost. Community college, they're on a semester system, and many students who are going to community college, they have that promise grant or where their fees are paid, but still, what would it cost that student to attend a community college if they didn't have any other resources and they were paying out of pocket? The Cal State, they're on a semester. Okay, they're on a semester system. So just for them to attend classes, and again, this might be a little higher, but these are our last figures, on a semester system. UC, okay, to attend classes at UC, we begin with our system-wide fees, which is $12,570, and we are, again, this is, we're on a quarter system. So this is, again, for the academic year. So Cal State semester, UC's quarter, and then you have your private schools. And notice that the private schools, their fees can begin at $40,000. Okay, so when you start researching and applying, focus in, what would it cost to attend that institution? And what I like to tell students that I'm working with is, many of you, and I know your school, they're very proactive. You got wonderful counselors there. So I know that when you start researching of what schools do you want to plan to apply to, we always say, when you go on to find out what the requirements, those admissions requirements are, go right over to what are the requirements for financial aid. And on there, that cost of attendance. So again, first, you want to focus on what will it cost you just to attend classes there. Okay, and then what we do is we determine, based on the financial aid and based on what it's going to cost you to attend classes, we determine what your families can contribute based on the information that we're going to gather from the financial aid applications. What are they able to contribute? Not necessarily the cash on hand, but what collecting information on the tax information and asset information from either the FAFSA or the DREAM application, what is the ability for your parents to contribute? So we have the cost of attendance minus family contribution equals financial need. Okay, so that's the formula. And when we talked about the cost of attendance, within a cost of attendance, there's other things that is looked at or a student will need. What would it cost the student to live on campus? Okay, in order for a student to be successful, they're going to need money to live on campus, should they choose to live on campus. At UC San Diego, it's not required that the student lives on campus. However, most colleges and universities, they do require at least the first year. What would a student to be successful, they're going to need money in their budget for books and supplies, transportation, personal. So those are things that are included in the cost of attendance. But the two things that you want to focus on, students, what would it cost you just to attend classes? And then what would it cost you if you decided to live on campus? And that would be based on your room selection and based on your meal plan. Okay, so those are the two charges that the school is going to charge. Yes, you're going to need money for books and supplies, transportation for those who you will be attending a college out of San Diego or out of California in some cases. So that's all included in that cost of attendance. But the formula is cost of attendance minus family contribution equals financial need equals financial aid. And here's a chart of when I talked about kind of split out. Here's UCSD's chart, what our cost of attendance is. So, our total to attend classes, including the system-wide fees, is $14,199. The other large charge here is room and board. And again, that's going to vary depending on the student's room selection and their meal selection. And then in the cost of attendance, there's a charge, very small: transportation, personal expenses, books, and supplies. Again, it's not what the school's going to charge. The school's only going to charge the student to attend classes, or they're going to charge the student, if they live on campus, their room and board. So now, where do we get the money from? The money comes from the federal government, a Pell Grant. Many of our students will be receiving a Pell Grant, and that's a federal grant. And that Pell Grant, that's primarily for our economically disadvantaged households. State government, a great grant, that's Cal Grant. And all of you students, you seniors, you will be applying for this Cal Grant. And this is, will pay the system-wide fees. If you're eligible and selected, you're going to be applying. So that way the Cal Grant pays that system-wide fees. To be eligible and to receive that Cal Grant, you will need to be a California resident. And unfortunately, you'll have to attend a California college or university. And I say that because I know some students, they have their hearts set, on attending an out-of-state college. And if it's a public school, you're going to be missing out on that Cal Grant. So a private school, they're not bound by federal and state regulations. So just be aware, students, that the Cal Grant, you cannot take that if you're attending an out-of-state school. Okay. And each college, each university, they have their own pool of money. Okay. We have our own funding and, university grant, UCSD grant, Cal State grant. We have our own pool of funding in addition to the federal, in addition to the state. Then last but not least, which is extremely important, and I know that many of you are very proactive, and I know you've been applying for scholarships. And if you haven't, there's still plenty of time. And that's private agencies. Those are those outside corporations, agencies that offer scholarships for students. And remember, and I tell students all the time, your goal is to try to get through your undergraduate work by taking the least amount of loans as possible. And that can be done, even if you're going to a public institution, because of the fact that you are going to be proactive and you're going to bring in outside scholarships with you. For our students who attend UC San Diego, and I'm proud to say, and that many of our students, our entering students, do bring in a number of private scholarships from the outside, that reduces down loan eligibility. That reduces down their work study eligibility. The last thing we ever reduce down in the student's packet is their grants. So wouldn't that be something, if you could get through, your undergraduate work without having to take out any loans, or if you do have to take out loans, that it's a very, very minimal amount. Gift aid, and this is what you're all striving for. Again, this is what your goal is to get as much gift money and scholarship money as possible, because it's free money. It's money that does not have to be repaid. The Pell Grant, the Cal Grant, again, are examples of what we call gift money. Now, students who are planning to apply to any of the UC schools, your UC application is also used as your scholarship application. There's not a supplemental scholarship application for you to complete. It's your admissions application, but that's UC's. So what about your other schools, your Cal State, your private schools? Do they have supplemental scholarship applications? And remember, I said, when you go in to research the school and what's required to apply to that institution, then you want to go right over to what is required to apply for financial aid, including scholarships. Another form of financial aid, or another resource, again, keeping that loan indebtedness down, is the work study program. And this is just like a regular job. It's money earned through part-time employment. You're paid on an hourly wage. They're on as well as off-campus positions. So again, it's like a regular job. At UC San Diego, we have a portal that's called the My Handshake. And Career Services is the ones who manage this portal. There's going to be listings for work study positions and non-work study positions. If the student is awarded work study in their packet, Then they go in and they apply to positions that are work study. It's just like a regular job. They apply, they interview, they get hired, they work, they get a paycheck. So again, it's just like a regular job. And then last but not least are loans. And there's loans that do have to be repaid with interest. There's two types of loans. There's the subsidized and subsidized. Government is paying interest on the student's behalf during the time they're in school. When the student graduates or drops below part-time, they have a 6 months grace period. So there is no, interest. Government's still paying the interest on the student's behalf. The student is not required to pay anything for 6 months. Once they graduate or they drop below part-time, then their grace period begins. Okay, and then after 6 months, the lender will notify the student on repaying back the loan. Subsidized, interest-free during the time the student is in school. Very important. Unsubsidized, interest accruing. So this means that the student their loans will, on the unsubsidized, will start accruing interest. Government is not paying the interest on the student's behalf. If you're ever offered one of the two loans, and at UC San Diego, we do offer both loans, then you want to make sure that you definitely use the unsubsidized only if needed. And in some cases, in most cases, it's not needed. It is there. It's there as a resource, but do know that these loans you do have to pay these back. Okay, so borrow wisely. And again, what are some ways for you to get through without having to take any loans out? And it's by bringing in scholarships from the outside, also making sure you meet any deadlines. Now, private institutions are a little different because they're not bound by any federal or state regulations. So private colleges, they can award students full rides, based on, their different types of scholarships. But again, you want to start comparing apples to oranges when you do receive these acceptance in your award estimates or financing plans, because you want to, again, that cost of attendance is a lot higher. So you want to just, lay out your financial aid estimate. Okay. So the Blue and Gold Opportunity Plan. So I will talk about this because, again, this is for UC students who are planning to attend a UC school. And what this plan is our regents developed this plan. And they said, okay, if you are a California resident and you will be attending a UC school and your family income is less than $80,000, then you're eligible for the Blue and Gold Opportunity Plan, which means that we will pay your system-wide fees. Now, most students and a lot of students will say, well, that's me. My family earns less than $80,000. I'm going to be attending UC San Diego. So then I am going to be awarded the Blue and Gold. Well, the next part of this equation is that we look at in total of all of your gift money, your grant money, your scholarship money. And if it is less than $12,570, we will award you the Blue and Gold. In most cases, and in general, a family whose income is less than $80,000, the average grant money in our packet is, around $19,000 to, $22,000. So you might say or ask yourself, because we often hear this question, well, then who is eligible? And usually most cases that the students who are eligible for this Blue and Gold are students who are living at home. And because of what's occurring now with the COVID, students are able to telelearn, they're not attending classes. In most cases, they're learning remotely, attending classes remotely. And so they're able to reside at home with their parents, and that budget is a lot less. And we've awarded the Blue and Gold, to a number of our students because they're residing at home. So just be aware that yes, you might be eligible because you meet that, you're a California resident, your family income is less than 80,000, but total up all of your gift money. Okay, total up all of your grant money. If you're eligible for the Cal Grant, that right there is 12,570. So even though you're eligible for the blue and gold, we would not award it because your gift money from the Cal Grant is a fee paying, and that pays the system-wide fees as well. Okay, I know it can be a little confusing, but I just say total up your gift money. And if it's less than 12,570, you're going to see the blue and gold in your official award letter. Now we have a middle class scholarship because that blue and gold is only for students who will be attending a UC school, okay, and a California resident. There's a middle class scholarship if families earn over 80,000, but less than 177,000, then they could be eligible for this middle class scholarship. And I show this screen, students, because again, this is why it's so important that all students apply. We often hear, well, my parents earn, over 100,000. Why should I apply? I'm not going to get any gift money. And here is an example of how a student can be eligible if their family earns over, 80,000 or over 100,000, but less than 177,000. Okay, so now with the blue and gold, we don't look at assets. We just strictly look at students' income, families' income, total income, if it's less than 80,000. The blue and gold, as well as the Cal Grant, looks not only at income, but they also look at assets. Okay, so this is another grant money that is for a student, either a UC student or a student who is planning to attend one of the Cal State schools. And these are public institutions. Okay, so now we talked about free scholarship searches because again, we want the student to apply and apply for scholarships that are out there. And I know your counselors, have empowered you with different reputable websites, and you're well aware of this, but I'm just going to show this. These are some reputable scholarship search engines that are free, and it's really important. You only apply when you get onto a reputable search engine that there's no fee to apply for scholarships. And if you get onto a site that asks for a fee, you immediately get off. The San Diego Foundation, and that's a great foundation, and that is for students who are San Diego residents or San Diego County residents. We encourage all students to apply for that. You don't have to be attending a college here in San Diego, you just have to be a resident. The San Diego Foundation, extremely important. They collect information and they match you to donors, and they're anywhere from hundreds to thousands of dollars. So students, you should all of you should be applying for this scholarship. It goes up early, usually the application goes up early December, and it's a short window of opportunity. It usually goes down in February. And I know your counselors will certainly, give you that information to make sure and encourage you to apply for that San Diego Foundation. And again, many of our entering students bring in scholarships from this foundation alone. If you're one of our dreamers and you're one of the AB 540 student who is going to be completing the DREAM application, this is the site you can go onto this site to apply for scholarships. Okay, so this is for students who are, again, our DREAM population. Now, how does a student apply for financial aid? Okay, so the student is either going to complete the FAFSA and free application for federal student aid, or they're going to complete the DREAM application. For the FAFSA, they'll go to studentaid.gov. For the Dreamers, they will complete the dream.csac.california.gov. You're going to be applying now, seniors. Okay, it's when you will be applying. The applications are due March 2nd. Now, I say applications for students who will be applying for the Cal Grant, March 2nd. You're applying for UCs, Cal States, March 2nd. But students, what about that private school that you're applying to? What about, what is the deadline for that out-of-state college that you're applying to? So it's really important, again, that you go on and you find out, is there an earlier deadline? At UCs, we don't say first come, first serve. If you complete the application on October 1st versus the student who completes it March 1st. Okay, we don't look at the first come, first serve for the FAFSA or the DREAM application for UC San Diego. But some private colleges do. They look at, they base their awarding on, the first come, first serve. So it's really important that you find out, is there an earlier deadline? That Cal Grant for students who will be applying for the Cal Grant, that's a firm March 2nd deadline. So you must have one of the two transmitted on or before March 2nd. Extremely important. So which application, because I mentioned two, so which application do you complete? This question is for the student. So student, are you a US citizen or are you a permanent resident? If you answer yes, then you complete the FAFSA. Oftentimes, students are concerned because their parents might not be US citizens or permanent residents. But this question is for the student. If the parent is not a US citizen or a permanent resident, when it comes to putting in the parent's social security number, they will list all zeros. But this question is again for the student. If the student is not a US citizen or is not a permanent resident, is without lawful status or what we call an AB 540, they complete the DREAM application. Okay, so that's, you don't complete, it's not one or the other. I'm sorry, it's not both, it's one or the other. So it's either the FAFSA or it's the DREAM application. And there are times that we do have when a student they complete the California DREAM application, and then they're maybe their first year in college, but then their status changes and then they complete the FAFSA. In some cases, it changes during the academic year. But to begin with, when you go to complete this application, students, are you a US citizen or a permanent resident? And if not, are you without lawful status, AB 540 student? AB 540 requirements: students who attended a California high school for at least 3 full years, graduated from a California high school or attained equivalent prior to the start of the college term. If applicable, complete an affidavit with the college stating intent to legalize immigration status as soon as eligible to do so. There's a lot more information when you go to complete this, the Dreamer, for that population of students, okay? It's basically right now what we want to, the information I want to get out to you is, which application do you complete? So then again, the applications become available. They're available now, and we're hoping the goal is to get these applications done as quickly as possible. File early, again, but no later than March 2nd, 21. Check with other colleges for other deadlines. And again, at least one student and one parent will need to sign up for an ID number. Now, we talked about primarily in the beginning, because I'm talking about the FAFSA or the DREAM application, and that's for students who will be applying to Cal State's UCs. But again, students are applying to, independent private colleges. So what is the requirement in addition to the FAFSA or a private college here in California, the DREAM application? Are there additional forms that need to be completed? A popular one is CSS financial aid profile. Okay, and that's where they're collecting additional information that's not asked for on the FAFSA or the DREAM application. Some private colleges and out-of-state colleges will ask for you to complete their own institutional financial aid form. And again, they're asking for additional information that the FAFSA or the DREAM Act does not ask for. Okay, so again, it's really important. I can't stress that enough, because we often hear, students who, they're applying to other colleges and got accepted to other colleges, private or out of state, and they find out that they didn't, complete that required document. So it's really important, students. Right now, what are your top choice schools? And is any of them out of state, private? Then you definitely want to make sure that you go on their site to find out what additional forms that are needed and what are those earlier deadlines other than the March 2nd deadline. And again, scholarship applications. Many of your out-of-state private schools, they have supplemental scholarship applications to apply for scholarships at their institution. And again, that's going to have it right there on their financial aid site when you go research. So now, this is the fun part. Now it's completing this application, because I'm sure the information I'm shared, you might have heard it before, but now here's where you're going to, apply. And that's when, what do you want? You want to get ready. And what you should get, students, is get some records before you actually go to apply to complete one of these two applications. Student driver's license, if you have it, it's not required. So you should have that available. Permanent residency card, if you're if you're a permanent resident. Student and parent Social Security card, get that. Don't, make sure, because that right there, you want to make sure that you don't, transpose any numbers, because your Social Security, if you mess up on that, it's going to cause you a lot of unnecessary hardship, okay? Because that Social Security number has to match what the school has. And when you complete your FAFSA form, it has to be accurate. You're going to be using income and asset information from 2019. Okay, so you want to make sure you have records available for that. Your 2019 federal income tax form, records of untaxed income, current bank statements, if you have a business or farm or other real estate records, records of stocks, bonds, and other investments. So these are going to be, there's going to questions. So this is what you should have, these records available when you go to complete your FAFSA or your DREAM application. So FAFSA on the web, they have that on the web, and you're going to complete your FAFSA. You can make corrections. You're going to sign it. You're going to save it. You're going to do this every year. You should all have an FSA ID number before you go to complete this, and I'm sure your counselor has worked with you on that. The information that's going to be asked, we're going to start off with the students' demographics, then the school selection. And the school selection is really important, students, because this is where you're going to list the schools you're applying to. You're not going to wait till you've been admitted, because we don't admit our student population, our students in until mid-March. That's after that March 2nd deadline. So you're going to list the schools you're applying to. Then they're going to ask the dependency status. They're going to, and again, most students, if not all you students that are in the audience this evening, you're going to be a dependent student because you're under the age of 24. They're going to ask information on your parents' demographics and financial information, sign and submit, and then you'll have a confirmation sheet. So the student completes the FAFSA or the DREAM Act. It goes to the Central Processing Center. And then what they do is they send the school this information that goes into a holding file. If you list UC San Diego, for instance, it's going to go into a file. It's going to create a student aid report for the student, and they're going to send the student aid report that says we processed your FAFSA. If it's a California aid report for the Dreamers. And that's when you're going to go there and you're going to review it to see if you need to make any corrections. You're going to go in and add additional schools. Okay, and then the information is going to be sent to the college. It's going to be sent to CSAC for the Cal Grant. What happens is once, remember I said it goes to this file. So if you list UC San Diego or you list Cal State San Marcos or Point Loma Nazarene or whatever school you list to, it's going to go to that school and it's going to be held in a file. At the point in time you are accepted into the university and you listed the school on the FAFSA or the DREAM Act, that's when you'll receive a college financing aid, a college financing plan, or what I call it a financial aid estimate. Okay, because it's going to list the types and the amounts of the aid that will be awarded at that institution. These are just estimates because the official awards will not go out until the student commits to attending the institution. What right now, these financial aid plans, financing plans or financial aid estimates, they're going to help you, student, decide, where you're going to attend in some cases. In some cases, it won't matter, UC San Diego, for example, was your top choice school. It's always been your top choice school. So, and we've got that great Chancellor's Associate program at UC San Diego. So let's just say, so it's not going to matter. As other students, it is going to matter depending on what school is going to offer you the best packet. So that's why it's extremely important is you list the schools you're applying to. And I always say, list the schools in order. What are your top choice schools? And then again, list the schools. Well, they might not be your top choice schools, but maybe you didn't get accepted into your top choice schools. And what are your second ones? Or what's on that tier 2, I always say. And then again, once you say and accept your invitation to attend, then the college will actually send out official awards, and they are the ones that will be sending out your financial aid and dispersing the financial aid. So let's get started. Now, I attended for the first time a Cash for College workshop on Saturday, and one of the questions that was asked, which I was really surprised, was the students were confused about which application do they complete. So seniors, you are going to be completing the 2021. See how there's two applications here? I'm sorry, oh gosh. You're not gonna complete the 2021. You are gonna complete the 21-22. It's the first one, okay? So you will be attending colleges. When are you going to be attending college? In the fall of 21-22. You will be confused. That's what you complete. The other one, the 2021, that's for students who are attending and applying now, colleges now. So you will start 21-22. Okay, that's where you're going to begin. They're going to ask the students information. Students, you're going to create a save key. Okay, you just create, create something you're going to remember, write it down. Because you're going to have, when you leave your application and you save it, you're going to want to get back into that. This is really good because if you have any questions before you start completing that FAFSA, and again, this is the FAFSA, but the DREAM Act, it's almost identical, students. So it's going to, if you have any questions before you want to do some research, how many steps, how long will it take? I say it takes maybe about 30 minutes, and that's, maybe, but it's the first time. Sometimes it's a little, it's new, so it's a little more difficult completing it for the first time. Can I save my FAFSA and can I finish it later? Yes. Documents needed to complete the FAFSA, signing the FAFSA. And then the web gives you some information on the web security because I know some parents have concerns about putting information out there. Okay, so these are some, just you can click on there and it's going to give you some, a description and answer maybe if you have questions on any of these categories. Okay, now we're going to ask the students information. And again, students, your social security number, this is extremely important. And I say that because let's say you got admitted into UC San Diego and we go to try to get financial aid. And we see that you don't have a FAFSA or a DREAM Act, or let's say the FAFSA, and and the student says, well, I completed it and I listed UC San Diego on my application. And then we go do research and we find out that your social security number is not matching what either the school has that you listed for the school, or you transposed the number on your FAFSA. So it's extremely important that this information is accurate, that you have, I say, have that social security card in front of you, because that's extremely important, because again, you're going to base your decision on where you're going to attend based on your college financing plan. And if we can't offer you a financial aid estimate because the social security number is not correct, and it takes a while to get that corrected. So either the school has the wrong one or the FAFSA has the wrong one, and it takes a while. So, again, and then if you're going to accept our invitation to attend, May 1st is our deadline. So we definitely want to have all your information updated and at least giving you a financial aid estimate prior to you accepting our invitation to attend. Your first name, your last name, your date of birth. Again, all of these should match. You need to match. This has to match the application on your admissions application, because if one of these do not match, if you put a wrong date on your FAFSA and it differs from the date on your admissions application, then again, we can't send you out a financial aid estimate. Your email address, really important, because sometimes, if we need to get a hold of you, we can email you. If we go to evaluate you or, and like I said, we need to get a hold of you, we'll certainly email you at the address that's on your FAFSA or your DREAM Act. Your telephone number, it's not mandatory, but I know in cases I'll call a student. Sometimes it's a lot easier for me just to call a student, pick up the phone and call a student, versus email, because then we can get all the questions, and especially if there is a problem. Your permanent mailing address, okay? Your city that you live in. Again, this is students' information. Your state, very important, because the Cal Grant, your state, California, your zip code. Have you lived in the state for at least 5 years? Yes. Again, California, you're applying for that California resident, and have you lived? If no, then, it's no, but in most cases, I'm sure it's yes. Are you a U.S. citizen? Then this is where they're going to ask your citizenship status. Are you a U.S. citizen? Okay, if you're not a U.S. citizen, are you an eligible non-citizen? Okay, so these are pretty standard questions. What will your high school completion status be? High school diploma. What college degree or certificate? So for those of you, again, that are going to be, moving on to a 4-year, it's first bachelor's degree. Some of you will be, maybe going for a certificate program, and maybe community college, because they have some great certificate programs, and then it would be certificate. But, in general, most of you are going on to your first bachelor's degree. What's really important, and don't skip this, will you have your first bachelor's degree before you begin in 2021 school year? Okay, so no, you're not going to have your first bachelor's degree. Okay, if you check yes, then you're gonna have you down as a graduate student. What will your college level be when you begin? Okay, so students, it's very important that you list that you say you never attended college, even if you attended a community college. Are you a male or female? Okay, if you're a male, you have to put this on, check that. And this is because if you're a male, you're required to register for the Selective Service. If you check no, then, are you registering? You check no, then you can check yes if you want us to register you for the Selective Service. Your driver's license number, If you do have a driver's license, it's not, it's certainly optional, not required. Were you in the former foster care? Again, they're trying to determine your dependency status. So in most of these, it's going to be no, you're going to answer no. Then what is your name of your high school? What is the city that your high school is in? And then again, this is just making sure you have the right high school. Students are going to ask this, they're asking you, students, again, for your information. And this is when you're going to start listing your school selections. Okay, this is how you're going to list. You're going to put the school name, the colleges that you are applying to. You can put the name, you can list the city, and it's going to pop up, and then it's going to give you a Title IV school code where you're going to list the school code. For each school you're applying to, you want to select the housing plan. Okay, so what we say, and this is just again a recommendation, that when they ask where you plan to live, that you check on campus. Because if you can get your on-campus paid for, and you can get enough financial aid to pay your on-campus room and board, we highly recommend that you put on campus, because that way you'll be offered the best packet available. Because, if you decide you want to live, with your parents, we're going to offer you the least amount of aid because your budget's going to be a lot less. And that's for students who will be attending college here in San Diego. By you saying on campus, you're not committing to living on campus. That's certainly not what that is, because you will not commit till you sign a housing contract. This is just so when you're sent out your estimate, you're giving the best estimate possible based on you living on campus. Student information, asking you, student, are you married? Of course, you're single. And then again, these are dependency questions. They're asking about you, most of you are going to answer no for all of these questions in most cases. And, we have a population of students that might have been homeless or self-supporting. They're going to ask that. But again, in general, if not, I'm certain, I think every student here is going to be a dependent student. So you will be checking no to all those questions. And then it's whose information will you provide for your parent? Okay. So now they're asking for the parent of the information that you're going to be providing, parent or parents. Are your parents married or remarried? What date did your parents get married or remarried? Okay, they do ask that. The information for your first parent, because on there's parent 1 and parent 2. So what is the information? Again, start off with your parent 1, the social security number, the last name, first initial, parent's date of birth, your parent's email address. And this is again your parent's email address. Another, what I want to, make sure that your parent's social security does also match, because that's very important. The parents make sure that they have, their social security cards in front of them, because that does too, there has to be a match. And, then again, here's the other parent 2's information. They're asking, have your parents lived in the state for at least 5 years? Okay, now they're asking the household size. So this is your parents' household size. How many is living in your parents' household? Okay, that's really important, because how many do your parents who is living in the household and they provide more than 50% of support? Out of that number, how many is in college? So now you want to list a sibling who's in college as well as yourself, because even if you're living on, you're living on campus, you're still considered in that parent's household. And if your sibling is living and, attending college and is not living with, but they could be living off campus or on campus, you want to include them in the household. And that number is very important because the family contribution is going to be divided by the number in college. So that's extremely important. Okay. And now they're going to start asking about your parents' finances, your parents' financial information. This is 2019. So most parents in general, if not all parents, they have completed the 2019 tax return. Okay, very few have not completed, but most parents have already completed it. So then they check already completed. They're going to ask what type of tax return, 1040. Then did they file parents? Did they file married, joint tax return? If your parents are married, if your parents are divorced or separated, then then it's either would be single, it could be head of household in most cases, or it could be, married filing separate. Now, one of the things, again, that we highly recommend, if possible, is that the parents or parent links up their IRS tax return. So the FAFSA, they link it up to the IRS site. And that's called the IRS retrieval. And that's where they will collect the information. And we know that it's going to be accurate because they're giving permission to link it up. It's not required. It's highly recommended. Now, there are some cases where a parent is not able to do that. But if they are able to do it, again, it is highly recommended. And one of the reasons why we say it's highly recommended is because if a student is selected for verification, and that means that the student has to verify the information provided on the FAFSA or the DREAM application, and the school that they will be attending, who will be awarding the financial aid, is required to verify that information. And one of the things we need to verify, if you were selected and you were going to be attending UC San Diego, for example, is their income tax information. If a student and parent linked it up to the IRS site, then parents don't have to send us the tax return form, the IRS tax return or the copy, because we know that that information is accurate because they were able to link it up. So that's why we say it's important if the student was selected for verification. And if the parents did not use this site because they chose not to, or because they were unable to, and they were selected for verification, then we would need a copy before we can evaluate the student. And before that student's file becomes complete, we will need a copy of the 2019 tax returns or tax transcript. Okay, so that's why we say, if at all possible, link that up, because that's one less document that the student would have to send to the school that they will be attending. And again, what was your parents' adjusted gross income from the 2019 tax returns? They list that there. Okay, and that's why we say have your tax returns available, because it's going to tell you exactly what line to pull that from. How much did your parent one? How much did parent two? Ideally, parents have your W-2s. That way you can go ahead and plug in those figures. And it'll tell you right there where to pull that figure up, what line on the tax return. Okay, and then this says again, did your parents, they're going to ask you a question about, did your parents file a Schedule 1? Okay, then you check yes, and then you answer the questions. As today, it was the next question, is your parent a dislocated worker? In some cases, because of what's happening with COVID, then it's yes. But it's going to tell you exactly, if you click on there, what's a dislocated worker? It's going to tell you what a dislocated worker is. Okay, it could be a parent who's unemployed right now. And then another question that they're going to ask you is, did your parents receive any type of benefits, any type of federal benefit, like Medicaid, supplemental Social Security, SSI, supplemental nutrition, SNAP? Okay, so these are the questions, free or reduced school lunch. If one of these applies to your household, then you check it. Okay, then enter the amount of your parents' income tax. And the reason why these questions are asked, because this is what's used to determine your family's ability to pay. What was the taxes? Did your parents have to pay taxes when they completed their 2019 tax returns? Some yes, some no. Because in some cases, parents didn't earn enough, so they didn't have to pay any taxes. But it's going to tell you exactly what line to pull that figure from. Okay, and then again, these are some other questions. Combat pay. So was one of your parents in the military? If it's no, 0. Okay, student, did your parents, did they apply, maybe you had another sibling in college? Was there any educational benefits that were reported on the tax returns? Education credits, on tax portions of IRA. And you'd want to answer all these questions, and if it's 0, then it's 0. If there is a figure, then put that figure in there. But it's going to tell you again where to take it from. Parent information. Okay, again, did your parents receive child support? Earnings from work under a cooperative education program offered by a college. In most cases, that's 0. This is, again, they're asking about your parents. So this is only, did one of your parents, did they receive financial aid? Did they earn work study? And like I said, in most cases, if not all, it's going to be 0. Did your parents have any of the following items? Again, they're just going to ask for that. And the questions, it's pretty self-explanatory. If it's 0, then it's 0. Now, do you want to skip questions about your parents' assets? Even though you can, and especially if you checked yes to one of those, programs, about those federal programs like free, reduced or free school, or SNAP benefits, you might have answered yes and checked one of those. But you still do not want to skip the assets information. And because in order to be eligible again for that Cal Grant, they're gonna ask you about your asset information. So just go ahead, save time, say no, you don't want to skip it, and answer the asset, the questions. Usually, students and parents, if you can check yes to one of those questions, then your assets, you have this asset protection allowance. So even if you do have assets, it's not going to calculate a family contribution because of the fact that it's going to be so little. That's in order to be eligible for one of those federal programs, you have to have, very little, if any, assets. So we say check yes and just answer. And if it's 0, then you put a 0. As of today, parents, what is the balance of cash and savings in your checking account? It's the day that you're completing and transmitting the program. Okay, so that's what they're asking for. And then they're asking parents, what is the net worth of your parents' investments, including real estate? You never include the equity in the home, parents, This is only other real estate. Do your parents have a business? And you only report the business if they have, more than 100, full-time employees. In most cases, they don't. So it's going to be, it's a zero. You don't put anything there. Okay, so don't overthink those questions, please. And do never, ever add, I know your home is an asset. When I say it's not an asset, it is an asset. It's just not used as an asset for financial aid purposes, okay? So the home is never used. It's other real estate, other rentals that your parents might have. Okay, and then they're going to ask, now we're going into asking questions about the student. So the student, did you file a tax return, student? Okay, did you file? And if you did, then you answer these questions. In most cases, students do not file tax returns. This has nothing to do with your parents claiming you or, your parents claiming some income on their tax returns. It has nothing to do with that. It's you, the student. Did you file a tax return? Now, some students do, and then they're going to ask you, if you click on here, when you do for the IRS retrieval, they're going to ask you, let you know that if you click OK, you want to, use the IRS retrieval to transfer your tax information. They're letting you know that you're leaving the FAFSA site and going into the IRS site. And then this is, I forgot I showed this on here. This is just questions about when you leave that site and you go onto the IRS retrieval site. Okay. So that's just some examples there. And again, you're going to have time because this is being taped, so you can go back and look at that, because I know I'm going through it a little quickly, but it's there for you to review. Okay, students, now this is students' information. And if you don't want to use the IRS tax retrieval, but you want to, you did work, then you're going to put in the figures yourself. And again, they're asking, students, are you a dislocated worker? This is your information. In most cases, again, it's going to be zero, students. It's the same questions they're asking your parents. So in most cases, it will be zero. Okay, so again, they're asking, this is on the students. They're going to ask you, students, what's in your checking and savings and or checking account? What is it of today? Do you have any investments? Again, it's probably going to be zero. And then your application was successfully saved. Are you the preparer? No. That's for somebody who's actually paying somebody to complete this FAFSA application. It's free, so no. And then here it's going to give you a review of everything you put on. So check this before you transmit it to see if you need to make any changes before you go sign in and submit. Now you're going to do the student signature. Okay, and that's when you're going to provide your student signature, the student and the parent. So it's, it's the parent who you have that ID number for. You're going to sign it. They're gonna, you have to check one of these boxes. If you skip ahead, they're not going to let you. So again, you agree, so you'd agree to the terms. The student signature, sign the FAFSA. Now you're ready to sign. The parents, then again, this is for the parent. Sign as parent 1 or sign as parent 2. Which one is the one that has that FSID number? That's the one you're going to sign as. And again, the parents, they have to agree to the terms. Now, if the parent is an undocumented, or is not a permanent resident, and the parent does not have a social security number, then again, they can't sign this electronically. So they're going to complete the signature page. The signature page is going to get printed out. The parents are going to sign it, and there's going to have an address for the parent to mail it to. And it's going to give them instructions there when they get there and see, here you go. Are they going to sign electronically, or are they going to print a signature page, parent? This is for the parent who is unable to sign it electronically because they do not have a social security number. For the FAFSA, Okay, and you never use the ITN number if you don't have a social security number. You list zeros. And then again, you're ready to submit. So you check that. And congratulations, you've submitted it and you are all done with that FAFSA or the DREAM Act. Now let's just talk a little bit about the verification again, because I said that, some students might be selected for verification. Randomly, 30% of all students who either complete that FAFSA application or who complete the DREAM application, they are randomly selected for verification, which means the school that they will be attending, the college or university that the student will be attending, and will be receiving the financial aid, that school is required to verify that information. And how we do this is, again, we need the tax return information for 2019 if the parent or students did not use the IRS retrieval. In addition to that, there's a verification worksheet. And on the verification worksheet, the parents, if they listed, let's say 6 in the household, then there should be 6 names listed on that verification worksheet. If the student, when the question is out of this number, how many is in college? And you don't add the parent in college, how many is in college? For the siblings, there should be a college name next to the sibling. So that's what we're verifying. We're verifying the tax information, and we're also verifying the number in household, and out of that number, how many is in college. And remember that family contribution gets divided by the number of siblings in college. So that's very important. And, sometimes we often get, well, my sibling doesn't really know which college they're going to attend yet, but what college are they most likely to attend? Because if they don't have a college name, then we have to take them out. So we have to change from 2 in college to 1 in college. So it's really important that if your sibling is going to be attending college and at least have time at a community college, if they attend a community college, that's an accredited institution. So as long as they're attending at least part-time, they get included as in the household and additional sibling attending college. This information again goes to the school that the student will be attending. So, again, keep your name and ID on everything, keep a copy. Really important, students, that you stay in contact with the financial aid office once you've been admitted, or even if you haven't been admitted, but you might have some questions. So, then what is, again, your top choice schools? And certainly when you've been admitted, before you even, make the commitment to attend, you want to make sure, are you clear about your financial aid estimate? Are you clear about your housing charges? Or you want to make sure that you stay in contact with those pertinent departments on campus. Remember, the deadline for Cal State's UCs is March 2nd, but other schools might have different deadlines. You are going to reapply every year. It's not one time only, students. Every year you're going to reapply. And every year you're going to be using your second year, it's income from 2020 tax returns, and on and on. Your financial aid could change. If your family's income and assets change, number in household changes, number in college siblings in college changes, your financial aid could change. So remember, cost of attendance minus family contribution equals financial need equals financial aid. Now, what I want to talk a little bit about, because especially of what's going on with the COVID, what's going on, is remember, you're using information from your parents' 2019 tax returns. Well, what could have happened in 2019 certainly is not what's happening now, or what could be happening when you're attending next year. Parents could have lost their job, parents could have lost their business, parents or someone in the family were sick, so now they got sick, they have high medical, high dental expenses. One of the things, unfortunately, we see that change in marital status. In 2019, parents were married, they filed joint taxes. Now the parents are separated or divorced. We only want the information of the custodial parent or the, or who the student is living with or last lived with. So that's would be at a divorce separated appeal. Loss of income appeal. Child support, that's another where this student, you might have been, your parents are divorced and your custodial parent was receiving child support. In 2000, when you turned 18, you're no longer receiving it. So that is another appeal. There's different types of appeals. These are the most common ones that we have. If you're uncertain, it begins with an email. I always tell students it just begins with an email. What is the school you're most likely going to attend, or what is that top choice school that you certainly want to attend? Send them an email. Certainly once you've been admitted, send your financial aid an email that says this is what's going on, and then we are able to determine what type of appeal that we can offer you. The financial aid administrators, we are the ones who has the ability and the authority to change your family's ability to pay, to change what they input on that FAFSA or the DREAM Act based on what's currently happening now. And that's what the appeal will ask. Okay, what will your parents, what did they earn from January 1st through the end of December 2020? Okay, we're going to ask you what's happening now. And we have the ability to change that income information, and in some cases asset information, to reflect what's currently happening now. Unfortunately, parents and students, you can't, because you have to put what was on that 2019 tax returns. The financial aid office, we have the authority and the ability to change that. And again, higher the cost, higher the financial need, higher the financial aid. So that family contribution determines what the ability your family has to contribute. And in some cases, it's zero. After collecting information, it's zero. So therefore, the packet, their financial need equals their financial aid, because there is a zero ability to contribute. Here's our contact information. And again, you'll always be part of the UC family. So even if you're not UC bound, please feel free to email us, visit our virtual counseling. This is our schedule. You're welcome to come in. And again, if you're UC San Diego is one of the schools you want to attend, but even if it's not, you just have some financial aid questions, then feel free to contact us, email us. And again, we can at least equip you and with the questions to ask that school that if it's not UC San Diego, but it's another school, and you have questions on financial aid or possibly one of the appeals that I was speaking about. So with that concludes my financial aid presentation for the recording. Again, it's going to be up there for you to review. I know I went through quickly, but your counselors are going to tell you the next step, what happens next. You'll have questions, and I will be also on the 24th available there to assist and answer any questions then, as well as my colleagues. So with that, I'm going to turn that back over to the counselors at Price. Thank you.
On behalf of the Preuss school counselors, we just want to say thank you so much to Yvonne Borrego and the UCSD Financial Aid Office for all your support for our students. We just really appreciate it so very much. So thank you. And also wanted to just let students know that a Parents for a Message was sent out on Friday, reminding your parents about the recording, when it will be available, and about the financial aid workshop coming up on Saturday, October 24th at 11 o'clock. There was a list of documents on there that you can collect as a family. You can start working on all of your application, filling it in, and please just keep any questions to let us know for later. There is also in the 12th grade resources folder that you have on Google Classroom is the list of financial aid documents if you need those as well. So I just wanted to remind you of those places where you can access the information. Thank you so much, students and families, for listening and joining us. And we will see you all on Saturday, October 24th at 11 o'clock a.m. So on behalf of myself, Ms. Hernandez, and Ms. Oka, thank you so much.
Now that you've watched the financial aid overview presentation, what are the next steps? From tonight, Tuesday, October 20th to Friday, October 23rd, the school counselors would like that the students and parents complete some steps before coming to our Saturday workshop. For students completing the FAFSA application or students that do have a social security number, please gather all financial documents that are needed. Students should also create an FSA ID, and this information should have been posted in the advisory teacher's Google Classroom. Parents will also need to create an FSA ID as long as they have a social security number. Students and parents should start the FAFSA application and write down any specific questions that they have. For students completing the California DREAM Act application or students without a social security number, they should also gather all documents that are needed. In terms of the California DREAM Act application, students and parents should also begin that application process and write down any questions that they have. Students with the California DREAM Act are not required to create an FSA ID or the California DREAM Act ID. This information is not needed or required for the California DREAM Act. This is a list of documents that are needed to complete the FAFSA and/or California DREAM Act application. Students that are completing the California DREAM Act are not required to have a social security number. If the student or parent has an ITIN number, the student may enter that information for themselves and for their parents, but it is not required. All of this information will remain listed here, and you can pause this video at any time. Students that will be creating a FAFSA application should also create an FSA ID. This serves as their electronic signature at the end of the FAFSA application. Students, please write down your username and password once you create your FSA ID. It should take 5 to 10 minutes. A parent is also required to create an FSA ID. It only needs to be one parent with a social security number. If neither parent has a social security number, then at the end of the FAFSA application, a parent will be required to print a signature page and mail it in to FAFSA. If neither parent has a social security number and does not have quick access to a printer or mailing services, please let your school counselor know on Saturday, October 24th, and we can help and facilitate that process. For Saturday, October 24th, we will be having a live Zoom meeting, which is very different from our YouTube premiere, but we will actually be available to answer any specific questions that you have. Our goal for that day is to submit the FAFSA or the California DREAM Act application. Students will be sent a reminder email and parents will be sent a parent square on Friday, October 23rd with the specific links. Students, please ensure that you only go to one Zoom room. There will be a FAFSA room for English speakers, and there will be a FAFSA room for Spanish speakers. Please pick your preference. For students completing the California DREAM Act, there will be one room, and English and Spanish will be available in that room. We look forward to seeing you via Zoom on Saturday, October 24th. Thank you and good night.